Hey there, and welcome to another episode of the Ben McGreevy Sports Podcast. Today, Cole Porter joins us, and we dive into some news around the NHL. We touch on things like the Nathan McKinnon contract. We look at the NHL's issues on getting Russian players playing in Prague here to start out the season with the Nashville Predators and San Jose Sharks. We talk Robin Lehner's injury, and then we walk down memory lane. We look at Pekka Rinne joining the Nashville Predators as a new staff person, and we look at Zdeno Chara's career and PK Subban's career and just talk about, hey, what those guys meant to us. This is the second episode ever of this podcast, and if you listen to the first one, thank you so much. That means a ton. We're looking so forward to getting the hockey season started and getting to walk through these things together and getting to walk through this season together and experience the highs and lows of what hockey brings us. Our goal is to have a show every Tuesday, and it might be Tuesday or Wednesday depending on when we can record, and it might mix around and be different days every once in a while, but our plan is to have at least one show a week, and so we hope that you'll join us for this season on the Ben McGreevy Sports Podcast. If you enjoyed the first episode, it would mean so much if you shared this with a friend and said, hey, check out this hockey podcast. Just started listening to it. We're going to try to hit all around the league this year. So if you have a friend who's a fan of a random team, send it to them. Tell them, hey, they're going to try to cover the NHL to the best of their ability, and we'll see where we can take this thing. So sit back, relax, and let's get into today's show. All right, we're getting right into it. Today, on today's show, we have Cole Porter joining us. Now, you probably know Cole. Cole was on the Hattie podcast with us, and he was a main voice on that. And I'm very excited that he's going to also be a mainstay on this show. Heath wasn't able to make it tonight, but Cole's here. Cole, welcome to the show. If you don't mind, share a little bit. We had Heath do this last week. Share a little bit about your hockey background as we get into talking hockey today.
Well, definitely excited to be back in the podcast realm. I know it's been a couple years. I hate Heath couldn't make it, but I couldn't make it last week. So maybe one of us will at least be able to make it every week. Really got started. I went to a few games growing up, never played hockey like you and Heath. Been a casual fan pretty much my whole life. Really ramped up when became closer friends with you guys, started going to games more in 2016, 2017, and kind of took off from there. I mean, most people that follow you have probably seen our road trips. So from there, it's kind of taken off. It's been a fun ride. So
I was about to say, if you want to see Cole Porter in like true Cole, this is a throwback. The first ever video we did like that is on this channel of like a hockey road trip is our one where we went to like Tampa and Florida. And I sometimes go back and watch that because one, we were all single and just like living as total free men, but like also you could just tell we were so happy, and we're still very happy. Like you are now married and like a
that
father.
feels like so long ago.
It really does.
Feels like I was a child.
But you can go back and see like some of our history of enjoying the Preds together. But hey, excited Cole's going to be on the show pretty much throughout the history of the show and continuing on with that. But let's get straight into hockey news. This has been honestly an incredible week for hockey news, and it's only going to get more. Next week on next week's show, we will have seen preseason hockey at Bridgestone Arena like next Monday. So we're recording this on Thursday, September 22nd. On Monday, we'll literally have been at Bridgestone Arena for 2 preseason games. So that's kind of wild to think about on that sense. But Nathan McKinnon just signed a contract, his like big extension. Nathan McKinnon finally gets signed by the Colorado Avalanche. He signs an 8-year deal that will make him $100.8 million. $100 million at an average of $2.6 million a year. He's the highest paid player in the National Hockey League. Cole, in your opinion, does Nathan McKinnon deserve this?
It's funny. I think absolutely he deserves it. There's two things when I think of paying players that matters is how much value do you bring to the franchise. Nathan McKinnon is the franchise name of the Colorado Avalanche. It starts with him. So does he deserve it? Yes. Looking at what it does to the rest of the salary cap, that's a different story moving down the line.
Yeah. Man, that is so good. I love how you just said, like, he is the franchise. He and Makar are the franchise.
Yeah,
he
and Makar
are going to get paid. Like those two guys by themselves are such a big part of that. They're getting paid accordingly. You know, like when you think about they're the two highest paid players in the team. Makar's at $9 million through 26, 27. McKinnon's going to start at, he's playing this year still at 6.3, and then he'll start at his 12.6. But they have some sweet. Actually, I said that Makar's the second highest paid. Rantanen actually is at 9.25. But you know, those three guys are incredible. But I think you're so spot on. McKinnon is the face of the franchise, and I think that means something. Now, here's kind of where my discussion kind of shifts on it. Stats don't tell the story. I think McKinnon passes the eye test as being highest paid. Doesn't mean the best, but we can kind of put it like that. When you compare the stats side by side of like McKinnon, McDavid, because I would say that's kind of, those are the two guys that are the guys who people look at and compare. It's really not super comparable. I mean, you're looking at like, for example, in 2021, the Oilers played 56 games. That was a shortened season. McDavid had 105 points in that time.
Insane.
You know, this year McKinnon played 65 games, which is 10 more. Last year he only played 48. He's had a little bit of injury issues. And he had 65 points in the shortened season and 88 this year. So point production wise, McKinnon doesn't touch McDavid. You know, like that is valid. But I think leadership of a team, McKinnon's all there.
Agreed. He is. And it was funny. I was reading some Twitter feedback after Colorado made that signing, and people were like, Colorado's going to end up like Edmonton, dumping all your money into one player and not having enough room to build a team. I kind of disagree because they're going to sign Kel McCarr. They've already got Rantanen signed.
Yeah, McCarr signed.
Yeah.
So,
he is signed. So just having that there, that's three key pieces right there. You've got three of the top 10 players on your team signed. McDavid has good players around him, but he's not working with what Colorado has at all.
I totally agree. Let me give you this. So through 27-28, well, let's just say that. Let's use this year. Let's use year 25-26. Like that will be the last year. But through 24-25, you have Rantanen, Landeskog, McKinnon, Nichushkin, Lehkonen, Makar, and Girard all signed, plus Georgiev. Like, at least for 2 more years, Colorado's fine on the cap. After that, the only people that they won't have signed are Rantanen, and that's 2 years away. And like, that's the only guy they'll have to sign. And they have a lot of other guys who, they'll need some deals here and there. But like, your window's now if you're Colorado. You know, who cares 4 years from now?
Right. If you're Colorado, if I'm a Colorado fan, which I don't know what it's like to win a Stanley Cup because my team hasn't done it, but I'm sitting here saying, you know what, Colorado, you've got all the pieces. Let's go get another cup in the next 2 to 3 years. I'll be happy if we have to do a little bit of a rebound after 2 cups. I think I'll live. But as a Preds fan, you just want one. So I think if you're Colorado fans, I think you're really happy with how your future's looking.
Well, and let me throw this out there as well. Elliot Friedman has reported on this that they think the cap's going to go up $1 million next year, and then the year after that go up $1 million again. And then after that, they're thinking it's going to be like a big jump. like several $1 million.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing in that is it's about to not matter that they just signed McKinnon for that price. And I
Right.
imagine, if we're going to compare McDavid's stats are so ridiculous, right? It just isn't even
It's not fair.
it's not even human what Connor McDavid does. But okay, McDavid has 4 more years left on his deal. Let's not pretend that McDavid will not be the highest paid player once this contract is over for him, right? Do we agree with that?
Yeah, completely.
Yeah, I agree. Well, Colorado fans, you are blessed to have a guy like McKinnon. Humble guy, he's now won a cup. He's done that. He's just the guy who you want as a part of your franchise. So congrats to Colorado fans. You have an almost perfect player in Nathan McKinnon.
Yep.
Love
Enjoy it.
Absolutely. All right. Let's move on now. Today, there was some news that came out about Russian players getting to play in the European games. So Nashville and San Jose are slated to go play 2 games in Prague. This is over in Europe, and the Czech government came out today and said, hey, if you are an NHL Russian player, we don't want you to come play in Prague. Teams took a pretty strong stance on this. What are in your research and studies, what have you found out about this? This is kind of a shock, and it doesn't really affect either team. Like the Nashville has 1 Russian player. It's Yakov Trenin. San Jose has 1 Russian player, Alexander Barabanov, and maybe Evgeny Svechnikov if he makes the lineup in San Jose. But so this is not really affecting the teams. But kind of what are your thoughts on the Czech government telling the NHL that they don't want Russian players?
Kind of exactly what you said. It's not affecting the teams. But whether imagine if it was a player like Philip Forsberg or Matt Duchene that doesn't get to go over there and play. As a franchise, you're going to fight just as hard for those smaller guys like a Yakov Trenin that you are for the Forsbergs, just because of the principle of it. Okay, so what? It doesn't work out that they can't come over for 1 game or 2 games. It's not that big of a deal in hindsight, but the principle of the matter is that Czech is not letting these players come because of outside, really political issues. It's terrible. It's terrible for the players. It's terrible that it's happening to the NHL. I mean, we've seen some of this backlash already with like Kirill Kaprizov being stuck in Russia and being wanted at one point to be enlisted to go fight in Ukraine. I mean, it's crazy. So to me, it's just a bad look from their government, which I know they don't care about the NHL or our policies or whatever, but that's kind of what I think about it.
I thought, yes, you're so spot on. I thought it was interesting. The San Jose general manager, Mike Greer, said we're a team. So if they say some guys can't go, either we all go or no one goes.
Yeah.
I thought that was a pretty good stance.
They
do think the NHL has made it clear, like, hey, these guys have their work visas. They can go there and play. That they're gonna get it worked out. I thought it was interesting. Like Dominic Hasek, one of the greatest players of all time, is very active. Like, no, I don't think that the Russian players should get to come here. And I guess there's something to be said. Like the thing that we as Americans have a hard time understanding is like that country and Czechoslovakia and all of those areas were at one point USSR. Like they were in that setting where they were a part of the USSR. And so for us, I think it's probably hard to gain their perspective to understand why they would have a problem with it. But at the same time, it wasn't Yakov Trenin and it was not Yakov Trenin and Alexander Barabanov who said, you know what, we should go invade Ukraine. And so I don't feel like they should get punished for that.
Not everybody should be punished for that. Exactly what you said.
I think it's going to work out. They're going to figure it out. And the NHL is going to do what they can do to make sure that those teams are both there and playing. Let's be fair. Prague wants the NHL there.
That's the thing. At the end of the day, it's more of a punishment for Prague if the NHL doesn't get to come there. Because for us, it's like, okay, go or not. It doesn't matter. We're still going to play the games and people are still going to watch them. Whether it happens in Prague, that's up to you guys. So,
yep, you're very right. Yeah, and I wonder if they end up saying they're not going. I wonder where those games end up if they do a neutral site in the United States somewhere, or if they like where they want to grow the game, or if they just say, hey, you know what, each team gets a home game, and
yeah,
they'd sell tickets for it for sure.
That'd be awesome
for sure. All right, news out of Vegas today. Robin Lehner, starting goalie of the Vegas Golden Knights, is officially out for the season. This is a hip surgery. Leonard only had 44 starts last year. He was injured all last year. He's 31 years old. He is now coming off surgery. How's Vegas handle this? Is it a pivot time? Is Leonard's time over in Vegas? Kind of when you saw this news, and I know we kind of texted about it in our texting message with Heath, just kind of what that means for Vegas. But what are your thoughts on what this means for Vegas going into this season?
It's hard to tell because he's still a good goaltender. He's 31, so he's not a spring chicken, but he can still get the job done. I'm looking just down at his save percentages, and there's not one in the eights in the past 10 years that he's been in the league. I mean, the last 5 years has been a 907, 913, 940, 918, 930. I mean, he's doing well. And of course, he's not playing a lot of games every season. 44 this past year, 19 the year before that, and then 33 back in 1920. But he's still an effective goaltender. He can be the reason a team wins. So Vegas is going to kind of have to figure out what to do this season to get someone in there that's going to be good. Who's their backup?
Logan Thompson kind of closed out the season for them last year when Leonard was out. And I will say this, Logan Thompson looked good. I mean, like, it's always going to get brought up for the rest of his career what he did. There were like some shootouts where Vegas won them. They were still in the playoff hunt, and Logan Thompson played his mind out. Like, I think if you go back and look, he only allowed like one goal total. His save percentage in 19 games in Vegas last year was 914. So like he played pretty well. I think Logan Thompson's going to play well for them if he can handle the starting role. You know, I wonder for Robin Lehner, he is signed for several more years. He's signed through 24, 25. I just don't know, as a goaltender coming back from a hip injury when you're 31 years old, that's just something that's tough to do.
Yeah.
On top of the fact that what is Vegas going to do? I mean, Vegas is $10 million above cap right now. I don't know what they're going to do on that.
I don't know. And they were already not a great team last year. So, yeah, they've definitely got some things to hash out there. And they do have Mr. Preds shutout man, Aiden Hill. They used to play with Arizona, that every time that guy came to the building, he would shut us out. He did it twice. So, yeah, I don't know. He'll fill the backup role, I'm assuming.
I'm assuming that here or Brossoit will fill that, but I think it'll probably be Aiden Hill, or they'll trade one of them for collateral. You hate it for Robin Lehner, but it happens, and I wish him the best. I mean, it would be cool to see him get back in it where he's playing again, but that's just such a tough thing for guys to come back from. All right, moving into some Preds news. Speaking of goaltenders, Pekka Rinne, they announced today, joins the Preds, the Nashville Predators, as a special alumni director. How good does it feel to see Pekka back in Nashville?
I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome for the Preds, the franchise, the fans. Just reading that article today that came out, how he's still going to be involved in the Nashville Predators Foundation. doing community events and everything like that. I think that's what people wanted to see, was him come back. I personally didn't expect it. I thought he would go back overseas for a little bit, hang out, maybe help out with some minor league teams and do whatever, maybe relax a little bit. I don't know. But here he is. He's back in Nashville. So it's awesome to have him back. I think he's going to do an awesome job.
I think the benefit of having him around is so huge. I love, like, the Preds tweeted out a picture of his smiling face and it was like, man, how can you not love this guy?
Yeah.
His role is not necessarily like an important team role. It's like, here's an exact quote from the article the Preds look out. In his role, Rene will learn from and observe. I think it's weird that he's like learning from.
Right.
So, like, learn from and observe alongside Predators goaltending coach Ben Vanderlock and goaltending development coach Dave Rook and their efforts with the team's goalie prospects in Nashville, Milwaukee, and overseas. And then he'll also participate in alumni activities, which is so strange. But it is a weird thing. I love him being back around. The videos of him on the ice, you think about these young NHL goaltenders who all, like, they're, when they were kids, who was the guy? Pecorine, you know, like a star. And so suddenly he's coming in, and he's getting to develop those guys and train them. And I don't know, I'd look at him with star eyes if I were those guys. But
you've got to be happy to be a Nashville Predators prospect. If you're coming into this organization anytime soon and seeing that Pecorine is going to be the one to help you out, that's not some bad company to be working with.
Not at all. I love that. And I think that for David Poile, if he was, I bet he was just harassing Rene constantly. Like, come on, Pex. Come on. Like, let's
when are you
go.
Coming back?
Yeah. Let's go. Let's get you back over here. And a big win for the Nashville Predators today. And just having him around, maybe on game, like, it would be so cool to just see him in Bridgestone Arena on game day. And things like that will be special. Speaking of other retired players, for us, Rene, obviously a retired player, his numbers in the rafters. There are a few other guys who are going to be getting their numbers retired shortly. Heroes of our childhood. I mean, legitimately, guys who, when we grew up watching hockey, these were the guys. Zdeno Chara finally announces his retirement. What a career. And honestly, to end the podcast today, I just wanted us to kind of talk about PK Subban also retired. We're going to get to him in just a minute, but I just wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about Zdeno Chara, one of the all-time greats. He'll be in the Hall of Fame in the next 2 years. What are some of your favorite memories of Zdeno Chara?
Yeah, I mean, Ben, this is a guy, when I looked up his stats earlier, he's been playing hockey since almost the year we were born. I was born in 96. His first NHL game was 1997. He's literally been playing since I was 4 months old.
Yeah. Yep.
It's insane.
I was born in 97.
Super career. I mean, this guy, he's been a captain. So he's led teams. He's won a Stanley Cup, or more than one, right?
I think, goodness gracious, I feel pathetic. I think just one.
Okay.
Did he just win in Boston?
I think so.
Yeah.
Because he was with the Islanders in Ottawa before that. But I mean, this guy's he's done it all around the league. And he's never been the superstar points getter, but he didn't have to be for his role. So I think that's awesome.
Man, that is, his career was incredible. I love that you brought up when he started playing. Yeah, he started playing. He was in the NHL before I turned one, before you turned one. That's wild that he's just now retiring. I mean, that's a 20, you're about to turn 26. I'm 25. Like, that's a long career in the NHL. Long. And when you look back, he played almost every game of every season. Rarely did he have games that he wasn't playing. He was the pinnacle of health and fitness. They say he was one of the hardest workers when it came to making sure that he was in shape, which to me is such a cool thing. I remember sitting down to really, growing up, we didn't necessarily have cable. So I never got to watch the NHL All-Star game, but then we got cable, and it was 2011, and I finally got to sit down. I think it was the 2012 All-Star game, and finally got to sit down and like watch Chara in an All-Star game, a skills competition on the hardest shot. And I'll never forget the moment. Of course, I was cheering for Shea Weber, but when
Of course.
Chara launched that shot, that just clocked, I think it was like 108.8 miles an hour, and just like, whoa, that's a big shot from Zdeno Chara in that moment. I'll never forget that moment. And another one for me, we were at the 2019 Eastern Conference Final, and we're standing. It's Boston, Carolina. Boston, it's game 4. Boston goes in, and all they have to do is win, and they win the series. It was a sweep. And as a matter of fact, there's a vlog on this YouTube channel where, and you might hear me say this, or Bailey said this, maybe a guy who we'll hang out with and go to trips with sometimes, but Bailey was like, "Here comes Big Chara," and Chara was hurt that game, but you saw him come skating out to be with his team. And I'll never forget, one, the dude's massive, but
Huge.
also when like watching the team just so pumped that Chara was there, so pumped that he came out to be around them. And you could just tell that he meant something to that team. And he obviously retired as a Bruin. I think that's so appropriate, but just a really neat career. Did you like Zdeno Chara? That's a weird question as we're talking about it, but did you actually like him?
Yeah, I mean, I knew of him. He wasn't one of these people that I just grew up hating. Some of those you have, like one now would be Tom Wilson. You just don't cheer for him. But no, he was never somebody that I disliked. So leave it at that.
Yeah, it was so weird because Chara could be a little bit dirty at points.
Yeah.
And I remember there were points where I was like, I can't stand Zdeno Chara. And that is so funny because like apparently he's the nicest guy. You would want to hang out with him, but I just remember like having moments where I just couldn't stand him, and he was like a reason I didn't like the Boston Bruins, which is just a funny thing to me to even think about. All right, the guy who we have kind of a friendship with, someone who really hated the Boston Bruins, and then in Montreal, came to Nashville, was a big part of a lot of what happened in Nashville, and then ended his career retiring out of New Jersey. PK Subban, man, let's just talk PK. What a guy. What's your favorite PK Subban memory?
There's a lot, but one thing I remember while he was here, the Preds would always put out at games these videos of him just doing pranks and just doing other videos with other players and just being funny. And then you meet him in person, and he's the same exact person. Heath and I went to a season ticket holder meet and greet, and he was there, and we talked to him for a little bit. He is the exact same in person as he is in all those videos. The personality, the energy. I don't know if it's just an in public thing, but the dude is on level 10 most of the time. So it's super fun to see. He's super nice. I remember when that book came out, that was his dad that wrote that book.
Yep.
And he was there. That was really cool. But just having him on the team, he grew the franchise. He made a lot of people hockey fans. Even some of my friends that didn't watch hockey bought a PK Subban jersey. Why not? Dude's awesome. So there's so many good memories associated with PK Subban, and I'm glad he retired. I'm happy for him that he retired. I wish he could have won a cup. He definitely deserved it, but he will be missed.
Man, you just said so much that I agree with on so many levels about who PK was. You never got the sense that he was faking it. I absolutely loved watching this man play, and from his family being at games to just the way he behaved. I'll never forget. It was his first game in Nashville. It was a Friday night game against Chicago. And late in the game, he winds up and launches a shot, and it goes in. and he turns around and does the signature PK Subban celebration. And it was like Nashville had good players, right? Like we'd had Paul Kariya and Peter Forsberg was here for like 15 games. And you have had good players that played for Nashville in the past. PK Subban, Shea Weber, I mean, like we're talking Ryan Suter, these were
Right.
good players. We had never had somebody that had the name recognition of PK Subban and the superstar status. And I'll never forget when he launched that and turned around and did his PK celebration.
Yep.
And it was like, oh, the PK Subban show is legit and it's here. And you said this, he put the Preds on the map in a way that they had never been on the map. Like we had never had the guy who was going to be the media baby, who's going to be like, go talk to PK, or ESPN's calling him in the offseason, or whoever it was. PK was that guy for Nashville. He really was. PK made a big difference on the NHL. How would you, when you look back at his career league wide, what stood out to you about what he did in his NHL career?
I mean, he did so much. He only got better when he was with Nashville from the first season to the second season, because the first season we did go to the Cup with him. But the second season, I believe he had like 12 or 15 more points than he even did in that season. So he came back with a chip on his shoulder after losing in the Stanley Cup final. And when you go all the way to the final, I mean, people know that watch hockey, you don't get a long break till the season starts back up. So to go out and grind to try and get back there, I mean, he gave us all while he was here. I honestly wish we could have had him longer. We were even talking earlier this offseason about, man, maybe we can re-sign PK Subban to like a 1 year, $1 million, just get him back on the third line for some help. But one of my favorite memories of him playing was when, I forgot who we were playing, but he did a half or a mid-ice slap shot and it just went in, just past the goaltender. I can't remember who it was against, but I vividly remember that. He just winded up from half ice and just.
I feel like it was Winnipeg for some reason, but
it was a Canadian team.
It was. That's an incredible moment in his time here. One of my favorite non-Preds moments for PK was the hit on Brad Marchand. Oh, one of the greatest hockey hits because it was so good and so clean
and necessary.
It was so good. What he did for the NHL is huge. He was the first guy that it was like a personality, like a true personality in the NHL. And man, the NHL probably needed that when he brought it. And that was an incredible thing to see. His social media presence, the way he worked with the Montreal Children's Hospital. I think if we don't mention that, we will that's a his work with that hospital, incredible, giving millions and millions of dollars.
Still ongoing. That's a place that you'll see if you follow PK on social media. You see him there every so often. He still goes back and helps with that all the time. So what he's doing up there is awesome.
It's incredible. And then you sit there and you say, okay, here he started the Blue Line Buddies program, working to unite police officers in Nashville, Tennessee, to let them meet each other and work together. I mean, just stuff like that. Stuff that guys like PK can do that not everyone can, and he did it perfectly. And I will tell you, the league will be sad without him. I know a lot of people hated PK, but I always loved PK Subban. And when they announced he got traded to Nashville, I almost hyperventilated because it was such an exciting moment.
And it was exciting. I was excited / sad because you loved Shea Weber as well. But in the end, I mean, it worked out. He was a great addition to this team, and he's definitely going to be missed.
Absolutely. He was, I think, a big part of the reason they got to the Stanley Cup final the year they did.
Absolutely.
For sure. All right. Any closing remarks before we see some preseason action that you would like to make as we move into next year?
and I got a good feeling about it. I think we're like you and Heath were talking about the first podcast, I think we're in a better position this year than last year going into the season. So I'm really excited to see some of the new additions, even though they're just new to us. But Niederreiter, Ryan McDonough, I'm excited to see them in gold, see what they can do for this team.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. We'll see you next time, and let's go watch some hockey.
Let's do it.
Hey, thank you again for listening to this episode of the Ben McGreevy Sports Podcast. It means so much if you listen to this point in the show. We know that these podcasts are long, and so if you're at this point, thank you. If you don't mind hitting the like button and the subscribe button if you're listening on YouTube, and if you're listening on a podcast platform, and hitting that subscribe button and leaving us a good review would mean so much to us as we try to grow this. Once again, if you don't mind sharing this with a friend, tell them, hey, check out this hockey podcast. That would mean the world to us. Like we mentioned last episode, each week our goal is to introduce you to some new music from an up-and-coming artist. Today we are featuring Jesse Garner. He's based in Edmond, Oklahoma, which is just outside of Oklahoma City. And to me, he has a great sound, a strong voice, and has some pretty cool guitar licks that you can listen to in all of his music. Check him out on Spotify, Apple Music, or really wherever you get your music. So here's Jesse Garner with You and Me.
My whole world fell through to a sea that's deep and blue. My heart pumped straight out of my chest, and I felt a new connection to a love that's so affectionate. And I cannot say for the world how my heart led me to such a beautiful girl. And now my life has been turned upside down, because you're in it. You arranged it to fill every little shelf. Take my hand and we'll dance in the street. No shoes, no worries. It's just you and me. It's just you and me. Oh, it's just you and me. 'cause now my life has been turned upside down, because you're in it. You arranged it to fill every little shelf. Take my hand and we'll dance in the street. No shoes, no worries. It's just you and me. It's just you